Hey guys, welcome to Programming Knowledge. In this video, we'll see how to handle files using C++. Now, what is file handling? Why do we need to handle files? Well, whenever we are running a program, if we are taking some input from the user, or let's say we are even generating something which is really important and we need to store those things, like let's say in our snake game, when we made that, we had no provision to give a high score, right? Because every time you run the game, the score starts from zero and there's no way to know what was the highest score made till date using this game, right? So to counter such problems where you need to store data to a hard disk, not in the RAM, because whatever you're doing in the program in its runtime, it's everything is getting into the RAM, right? Nothing is going to be stored onto the disk. But you do need something on the disk so that whenever you uh, want the data back, whenever you want to read the data back, you have a way to read it back. You don't have to, again ask the user to enter everything, or miss out some important things and all those things. That is why we actually handle files. We write files to store data so that it will be useful in the long term. Now, everything in C++, as we know, runs on streams. So whatever we are doing with the operating system, with the hardware, everything runs on stream. So you're already familiar with one of the stream known as iostream, right? Input output stream, which allows you to access your keyboard and mouse using C++. Now, for files, you have another stream similar to this IO stream, which is known as the file stream. So, what will file stream allow you to do? It will allow you to access the hard disk of the computer so that you can write files there. So, you can write many types of files using file stream, which we'll be discussing in a later video. But today we will start with something really simple, which is nothing but the ASCII files. ASCII files are nothing but what you see every day, the .txt files, right? So we'll be writing ASCII files today using file stream. So let's quickly import that. Hash include fstream, and here in fstream you have a class called fstreams, right? So fstream is a class, and there are two other classes. So let's quickly talk about them. One is known as the ofstream and one is known as the ifstream. Now, what is fstream? Fstream is nothing but a class. It will allow you to create a file object with which you can read, write files, right? But ofstream and ifstreams are nothing but inherited classes. So these are nothing but children of this parent class, and the use of them is pretty straightforward. Ofstream is nothing but the output file stream. So you use this whenever you want to write out files, and ifstream is nothing but the input file stream, which you will use when you want to read files, when you want to take input from the file, right? So these are the two classes. Well, these are useful for fast things because in the f stream, what you need to do is you need to provide something known as flags. So let me just write it down here. You have something known as flag, which you need to provide to the fstream class to read, to get a particular functionality of the file. So when you want to read in a file, you put a particular flag. When you want to write out a file, you put a particular flag, and all those things. We will be talking about that later, but today we will be seeing one of such flags. So basically all these flags start with something like iOS. You have two colons, and then you have a string over here. So we'll be talking about this flag today, which is iOS app, which is nothing but appending flag, and we'll see what append means in a short while, right? So this is about the classes. This is just an overview. We'll dig deep into it in the future videos, but today we'll see how to quickly write a file, how to read a file, and what are the different ways to read from a file, right? So let's start with writing out to a file. So for that, what we need to do is create an object of ofstream, output file stream. So ofstream, and our object is going to be file, right? Now to open a file, what you can do is you can just say file.open, and inside this you can pass in the file's name. So I'm just going to do test.txt. Well, this file doesn't exist. I'll just explain you in a moment what this does. But basically, for now, you can say that this file doesn't exist on my computer. It will be created by this ofstream class. Now you can either use this method, the dot open method, or what you can do is you can directly call the constructor. So you can just uh, use this constructor. You can just pass in the name of the file over here, and that will do the same job as file.open. So this is about opening a file. Opening is nothing but if that file exists on your hard drive, what it'll do is it will just load it into the RAM. So whatever changes you make to that file, everything will be affecting the original file in the hard disk, and once you close it, it will be removed from the RAM. So that's how ofstream works. And another important thing is you need to always close the file. So once you open a file, it's really important that you close the file. Well, this should be in the last technically, but I'm just putting this right now so that you guys remember that whenever you open a file, you always close the file. This is a must, right? So it won't affect your program much, but what it's going to do is it's going to clean up the RAM. So you don't want your files dangling around in the RAM, right? So if you forget to close this file, it will be present in the RAM, and it will be removed only when you restart your computer. So that is the reason it's always better to close a file once you open it. And that's about creating a file or opening a file. So if this file exists, if this exists, where does this file go? It just goes in the same directory as this main file. So I have this project saved in my desktop. So if I go to my desktop and open that project, it's YouTube. So here you can see main.cpp, and well, I had created this file before, so let me just remove that. So here you have main.cpp, right? So this is the directory where the file is going to come. Now if I just run this program, if I just run this, I'll be getting a successful run, and if I go there, I'll be seeing test.txt over here. So this has been created right now once I run this program, and it will be created whenever you run this program. Basically what happens is even if it exists, it will just overwrite everything in that file. So if I write something over here, so if I write something like this is a test, save that, close that, and again run this. So if I just run this again, go back here, open up test, and you can see it's blank, it's gone, right? So that is what happens when you open a file. I'll tell you how to save the previous contents, but for now let's just talk about creating a file. What happens is even if it exists, it will be overwritten and a new file will be created in the same name, right? And it's just like you're just deleting it and creating it again with the same name. And it will be always created in the same directory from where you run the program. So since I'm running it from main.cpp, so here I'm at main.cpp, I'm running it from here, it's creating in this directory. And if you go to bin debug, here you will have the exe file, right? So I've told you how to distribute your programs. So this exe file will be created every time you compile your program. And if I now double click on this, the test.txt will be created in this directory. Now this is different from this one, right? So when I run main.cpp, it will be created in this directory. When I run this debug, it will be created in this directory. So basically, if you don't provide directory, what is going to happen is it's just going to create it in the same directory. And if you want to create it in some other location, so let's say let's create it inside this obj. So here you have a folder called debug, right? So I'll create one over here. So you'll just need to provide this folder's name. So all you need to do here is I'll just say obj slash test.txt, and if I run this, and I'll be getting it over here. So obj test.txt, right? So that's how you create files in different locations. And whatever it suggests is that you don't worry much about the locations, you just create the files and then move it to wherever you want, right? That's going to be really easy. So that's one way, or else you can just create it in the exact location you want and work with them. It's up to you, but for now this is how you create a file. And now let's see how to write to the file. We have opened this in ofstream mode, right? So you can write to this file. So how do I write this? Well, how do I write something to the console? You do something like this, right? So cr, this is a test. This is how you write to the console. And let's say new line, and this is on another line. This is how you write to the console. And if I run this, what I'll be getting is I'll be getting those lines onto my console. Now The way you write to a file is really simple. What you need to do is you just need to remove this cout and place file over here. So that's how you write something to the file. This operator is all that matters because both of them are streams, right? And this is nothing but a stream operator, this output stream operator. That is why what you can do is you can just use this operator to write something to the file. And now I just close this file. If I run this, I'll be creating a file of the name test.txt inside obj. Well, I did not remove this. Well, basically it will be created inside obj and you will have these contents. So if I go here, so this is not the file, so here you can see it's empty. It's inside obj, and here you have test which has those contents. So this is how you write the file, right? So this is how simple it is to write to a file. You just use the stream operator to write to the file, and you must have guessed it, reading a file is almost similar. So now let's move on to reading files. I'll just delete this. I don't want my structure of the project to be messed up, so we'll just keep this inside the same directory. And now to read from a file, what I can do, well, before going to reading from a file, let's talk about appending to a file. What is appending? Well, if I not change this content, it will be overwritten, right? So you just seen that whenever I use ofstream, our file will be deleted and a new file will be created in its place with the same name, right? So if I now remove this, so let's say I remove this, so this is on another line is the only content. If I now run this, I'll be getting that thing inside this file test.txt which has only one line. Now how do I add something to this? I cannot add something, right? So if I just remove this and I add something else over here, so if I just remove this, I just keep this, the word this over here, and I run this. You know that it's just going to be overwritten over here. Everything else would be gone. I just have this over here now. Now, how do I tackle this? Well, there is a flag, as I told you in the beginning. It's the appending flag. How to add flag is that you just put a comma in the constructor or in the open statement. So if you are using the function to open it, you just do the same thing over here. So you just do test.txt, put a comma and write whatever I'm going to write here, right? So here what I'm going to do is add the appending flag. So ios, these two colons, and then you do app, which will enable the file in append mode. So what happens is that it is not going to whitewash the file, the things are going to remain, but whatever I'm going to add now are also going to be written over there. Now if I do something like this is some new content being added, and just to differentiate, let's keep it on a new line, because if you don't keep it on a new line, it just works like cout operator, right? If you don't keep a new line, it's just going to write it beside that. So that's the thing. So if I just write this, save this, run this, build and run this, sorry. And now if I go to my test.txt, so that is the file I've been writing to, right? So if I now open this, here you can see that the new content has been added and the old one is being preserved. So that is about appending files. And now let's talk about reading from a file. Well, to read from a file, it's almost straightforward. What you need to do is just remove ofstream and replace it to ifstream. So ifstream is nothing but input file stream. And how do you read from the console? You do this, right? So you have variable called string s, and you just read from the console like this. And to read from a file, just replace scene with file, and that's going to allow you to read the file. And now since I have a string here, what is going to happen is it's going to read word by word. Now if I do cout s, I'll be getting the first word. So what is the first word over here? In my file, the first word is this, right? So I'll be getting this over here. So if I run this, I'll be getting this. And now if I change this to a character, if I do char, and now if I run this, I'll be getting the first character, which is t, right? Now, how do I read the whole file? So basically what happens is that whenever you write a file, whenever you do file.close, what's going to happen is that the newly added content, after that, at the end of the file, you have a special character which is not visible, known as the end of the file character, or the EOF. So EOF is nothing but end of file, and this is a character, and while this is not reached, we can just keep on looping. So what we'll do is we'll run a loop, and after every time we get a character, we'll check whether it is the end of the file character or not. Once you reach the end of the file character, you will just terminate the loop. So how do I do that? It's really simple. I just do, well, let's just keep a string variable on the outside of the loop so that we don't create it every time. So here what I'm going to do is while, let me just put it on new line, while file.eof. So while file.eof has not been reached, so for that I need to put not. So while not file.eof, while not file.eof has been reached, what I can do is I'll just read the word inside string, and I'll just print out the string on a new line. Right, straightforward. Now if I do run this, what I'll be getting is I'll be getting all the words. So this is some new content being added, so all these other words in my file. So that's how I get word by word. If I need character by character, it's almost the same thing. I just change this to char, run this again, and I'll be getting every character in my file. So this is how you read character by character. And if you want to read line by line, it's a little bit different. You don't read to the end of the file. What you will do is you'll just read the lines one by one and read till you reach the end of the file. So what you do is, I'll just show you, it's just string s, and here what I do is get line from the file inside s, and while you can get the line, if you don't get the line, it's going to return false. If you can get the line, it's going to return true, and I don't need this operator too, so I'll just remove that. And now if I run this, I'll be getting the lines. So this is some new content added, and then a new line. That's because of this one, right? So here you can see it's just reading line by line. So if I want to stop at somewhere, so basically what this does is it's called a delimiter. So what it does is you have a line, right? So you have this line and you have this line. So how is it stored in the memory? You have this special character which you know about, right? This is the slash n. So this is how it's going to be stored. So this, when this character is reached, it will consider this whole sequence as a new line. But what if you want to consider this? So if I just put this character in between, I want to consider this one as in one line and this whole thing as another line. So that can also be done using the delimiter. So what you do is you just put a delimiter, like I just put a space over here. So that's going to be considered as the delimiter for stopping when and considering the whole sequence as a line. Basically the default is that slash n, because that's what you consider a line, right? So whatever, if you write something like this and then you move to the next line, so when you press enter, that slash n is getting added. So that is what you consider as a new line. But basically if you want to consider something else as a new line, this is how you do it. And now if you just run this, I'll be getting every word. That is because after every word I've given a space, right? So, and this is the delimiter I've given. And if I put something else which is not there, so if I put this thing, it is not there in my file, right? So that character is not there anywhere. So the whole thing is just going to be considered as a sequence. Now if I run this, here you can see the whole thing has been considered as one single line, right? So that's how you can read from files, you can write to files, and it's all about the text file. So you can do many operations, like you can read, you can count how many words are there, or what you can do is you can read the files and see if some data is getting stored over there, or some specific word is appearing in that file or not. So all these things you can do. Let's quickly write a small program to do that. What you can do is, I'll just say ofstream file.close. Never forget these two things. When you open a file, you need to close it. And let's say we'll just say that cout, enter your name, and I'll get a name here. So string name, C name. So this is just like, I'm just showing you how you can use the files. This is just a simple example. And here I will do another thing like cout, enter your age, and I'll just say int age, C in age. And now what I'll do is, I have already opened the file, right? So let me just move this down here. I don't want to put this file in the memory right now. So once I have all this information entered, I'll open the file. I will write this information to the file. How do I write it? I'll just say a name and the name, new line. It's just like this yet operator, right? I hope that you're getting the similarity over here. And then it's age and then the age. That's it. I'll just do file.close, and well, I did not give any name to the file, so let's say details.txt. I'll use this name. I'll build and run this. I'll be getting, what is your name? It's Tony. What's your age? I'll say, okay, it's too much. Let's say 12, and I enter that. I run that program. Now I go here, I have this details.txt. I open that, and here I have my details. So whenever I need this information again, I'll be having that information, and I can just read from this. Well, basically for these kinds of information, these are nothing but details, right? So you have name, Tony, age, stuff, and something like that. So you can maintain a table like that. So will that kind of stuff, that this is just to store text data. This is just to store ASCII data. There's actually another way, another better way to store information like this. It's nothing like SQL. If you're familiar with SQL is nothing but a database language. But for now, what we can do is we have something called binary files. So what you can do is you have something called .dat files, where you can write classes. Now why do we need to write a class? Well, all these things, if you want, you can just create a class, and then you can assign particular variables for that. Once you have a object of that class, you can directly write that object inside the .dat file, and you can access them. This details thing, that's how people do it, because it's really easy to access in that way. Because once you have this one line, you need to strip that line, you need to get that last character and all those things. So that kind of things won't be necessary, right? So that is the only reason people use .dat files, because once you have a class, once you read it inside a class, you can just do well, it's just like you have something like %p, and once I read this inside this, what I'll do is I'll just do p dot name. I'll get the name, p dot age, I'll get the age, and something like that. So p dot age will give me the age. So that's how people do it, and we'll see how to do that in the next video. And till then, happy coding.